Hey, so sorry, it's been a crazy amount of time. Remember when I said I was going to do these videos every week? Yeah, I pretty much had a major meltdown for probably the last month. My husband says this time of year is like my time always to get depressed. So he probably knows better than anyone, right? But then as spring starts coming alive and the pink trees, and because I like pink, I seem to come out of that funk. But also, I think every year I try to take on something amazing and I get super excited about what I'm doing and then realize that I'm doing a lot. So, just to give you a sum up of what I found out with my beta group. So I did do, my last unit was waves. I did take one class and then 4 other students in another class through more of a contract where they had to figure out what grade they wanted to work towards. And then I stopped it really giving them grades. I just gave them lots of feedback. And then each week they evaluated themselves on an evaluation form. And then that was their grade. So as long as they turned that in, they got full credit. And then at the end, I did a portfolio, and I call it a portfolio, but really it was just like a reflection of some questions of how the quarter went and how they felt they did on specific things. And so this is what I found. First of all, I think there were some kids that really excelled by that. They really pushed themselves even harder, that they were on that contract to prove to themselves and to me, I think, that they were doing that work and stepped up. The portfolio became like, oh my gosh, we got to get this done at the very end. And so kids were like throwing it together. And so I got a lot of quick rushed answers that really, they didn't really go back and look at what they had turned in or what the grades they got. They were just kind of going off of memory. And then there was probably about 10%, and I say only 10%. Now remember, I picked this group specifically because of their motivation. So only about 10% this didn't work for. And what I noticed with those is one of the boys picked a B. I'm sorry, he picked a B because he was concerned that it was going to be too difficult a process, and he was doing basketball. So I do think he made a lower choice because of that. But then he got kind of a bad grade on one of his celebrations, and he said, yeah, I didn't do too well on that test. And I said, well, remember, you have the option to take it as many times as you want and correct that and put that into your notes. And he's like, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. But then he really never went back and did that until I was like, hey, didn't you say you were going to go back and do that? And he's like, oh yeah. So that didn't work. And then I had another student that just completely like quit turning things in. I couldn't get him to come to EDL. He really didn't want to be there. And every time on his evaluation, it would say, or on his reflection, it would say, yeah, this wasn't my best week. I really probably should have done more. I didn't get very much done. And it was just really like, yeah, oh well. And so when I talked to both of those boys, they really felt like because they weren't seeing that grade in Infinite Campus, that motivation was gone. They were like, oh, well, I still have an A, so I'll just get to that later, or it doesn't matter if I don't do it right now. And so they kind of just quit on me because there wasn't enough motivation. And then I also felt like I got a lot out of the 5-minute conferences. I loved those conferences. I had to set a timer because I'm a talker. But I learned so much more about my kids. I also learned that they really didn't know what their learning styles were until we did this process. And then several of them were like, yeah, I think I'm actually an auditory learner or a visual learner. And they were before, like pretty much the whole class was like, I'm kinesthetic. Like I just like hands-on, which I mean, honestly, most people do. But they started learning more about themselves. And so probably the whole process, that 5-minute conference was my favorite thing. And I felt like that was majorly beneficial. The portfolio, I think that kind of failed in what I wanted. I mean, I got some good reflections on it, but I do think that was lost because they did it so far in the end of things. And again, I'm paperless, and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but I'm thinking about going back to some paper things. Yep. I mean, I kind of have been doing some doodle notes and things like that. I can't believe it, but I do think there has to be a balance. I mean, I was always like go hardcore into not using paper, because honestly, they lose those constantly. But I am still missing something with their notes. They're just not using them in the way I'd like to see them use them. So I am gonna go back to maybe doing an interactive notebook, which I've never done before, but I would really like to try, and then just keep them in the classroom. And then I wanna figure out how to do conferences more often in the year. I think if I would have conferenced with them halfway through and kind of given them some feedback on where I felt like they were, some of those kids that didn't do well on the process would have done better. I think then we could have like pulled up specific things and said, now look at this, reflect on this, turn that in. Or that could have been something they could have put in an official portfolio, like either online or whatever. And I didn't really have a way to do that specifically for this thing. So to sum it up, and I know this is getting too long, to sum it up, I don't think that 8th graders are ready for not having grades. I think that is beneficial to them. I do think having the reflection question every week that they had to answer was crazy better than even the test, because they knew like every week what the GPS was and that they were gonna have to answer a question based on that. And I got more out of that than the test. And I want to figure out a way to bring back interactive notes or in-class notes that they have to write in something. And I want to figure out a way to do conferences more often, like at least maybe at the end of each quarter or something. And how to manage that, I'm not sure, because I did a lot of those outside of class. So I would have to figure out a way to do those in class for 120 students. But all in all, I think I learned a lot about learning styles, about students, about what they're motivated by, and just personalized learning. They love having choices, not necessarily being told what to do. And I do think there's some that have to have that guided guidance throughout what the module is, especially if they're at the lower end and tend to not want to work because it's hard. But the ones that really understand and really work to understand, I think opening things up where they have more choices is way more beneficial than just having everybody do exactly the same thing. So great year. From this point on, I'm just gonna be sharing out some tips of things like just basic things that I do or I've learned this year that I think is beneficial. So these won't be as long as this video is. But I wanted to sum everything up. If you actually are an AMS person, I'm going to actually talk about this at our PD on the 18th. And I promise it won't be super long. I'm just going to do a quick PowerPoint that shows you some of the things I did and some of the choices that I made. And then people have the option to try some of that if you'd like. But again, I don't know if my test was like a complete success, but I did actually learn a lot out of it. I got my national boards done. Yay. I got nominated for an award, an engineering award. Haven't heard, probably won't get it because I normally don't. I just get nominated, which is awesome. I love that I get nominated. Makes me feel good about what I'm trying to do. But at least I got the papers done. And that, that's probably another whole video. But I think that, honestly, teachers have to write too much about why they're good at what they do. And so I won't go into that now, but that's my other pet peeve, I guess. So love you lots. I hope this helped you if any of you have been following my journey, and feel free to comment and feel free to ask for any of the supplements and things that I used. Bye. Thank you.